Let's get started. Welcome to Summer Fishtrap Day 3, reading number 2. That sounds like we should catalog it. I am super happy to get to talk to my friend Laura. So I know it's hard not seeing you in person. This is, I think, the third year she's been here that I've been here. I think that's right. This is my 5th Summer Fishtrap. That means you've been here for most of them. So. And I count that you're here because from my perspective, you're sitting in my backyard. So it all works out well. Laura has been teaching our year-long course for the last, year, thus the name. And this cohort is about to finish off this week. And they'll be doing a reading at the end of the week. So check your schedule for that, because the more of you that can log in and celebrate them, you'll be very glad you did. They've worked very hard this past year, and I'll let Laura talk about that a little bit. How are things going? How's the workshop experience, the virtual world?
You asking all them or me?
I'm asking you, actually.
I think it's fantastic. I think everyone's adapting and resilient and making the most of it and getting a lot of great work done. And I hope everyone does tune into these readings because they are fabulous.
That's great.
Not just saying that. They are fabulous.
And the other thing I do want to pass on is you did a craft talk yesterday, and for our Summer Fish Trappers, that is also available as a recording. It was recorded and posted, so hopefully if you've missed that yesterday or you want to see it again, you have access to that this week as well. So Laura is the author of, is it still 9 books, or we're about to have 10? Number 10 is on its way.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I'm working as hard as I can.
And so you began your journey with short story collection Hell's Bottom, Colorado, which won the Penn USA Award for Fiction and the Milkweed National Fiction Prize. There's been a slew of novels that I know many of us are fans of, Skybridge, Stars Go Blue, Red Lightning, and The Blue Hour, which I can say for sure I hear about and quoted, in my mom's circled that several times as one of her favorite books, which is pretty great. She's the editor of 3 anthologies, has 2 nonfiction books, Great Colorado Bear Stories and Making Friends with Death, which I think is brilliant. Her work has appeared in the New York Times, Salon, High Country News. And again, I want to call out High Country News for being a partner with us in this event. They're wonderful folks. Orion, The Millions, and Publishers Weekly and The Sun. You hold a PhD from Purdue, and you teach around the country, and you're also teaching now. You're heading up a writer's program in, was it Western Colorado?
The nature writing, the MFA with the nature writing concentration at Western Colorado University in Gunnison, but it's low residency, so.
And how was that first year?
Wonderful. We've got the program off the ground, and there's a lot of admin work, as you
I remember
know.
last summer talking about that was just getting going, so we're so super excited for you. So please sit back and enjoy, because I know this is going to be wonderful. So welcome, Laura.
Thank you so much to all the fish trappians who made this possible. And thank you all for being here. I would like to read the opening from my novel In Progress, in part because it's new and it's always fun to read new things, and in part because it's timely, I think, because it's set in April of this year. I just sent it to my agent, so it's definitely in progress. I don't know when or how it will be published, and if this reading will be very different from the finished product, but I wanted to share it with you. I actually really started it, or got going with it seriously last year at Fishtrap, so it's an ode in part to Fishtrap. I will just say a few things about it. It's called Billy and Jess, and it's about 2 siblings who appear in 3 of my other novels, Hell's Bottom, Stars Go Blue, and The Blue Hour. And so hopefully you don't need to know and have read those books to get this book, but I just wanted to mention that they are siblings that I've written about before. And I always give the same caveat, which is this is fiction. I say that because I feel like if you read my books, you would start to worry for me because of my characters. I live a fairly quiet and somewhat normal, well-adjusted life, I think, but my characters do not. So I just always like to remind people it helps to be calm and centered to write about people who are not. Fiction is fiction. So Here is the opening of Billy and Jess, and the only thing you need to know is the first chapter starts with the words Billy. It's his point of view. And so this farmhouse, not the worst place to weather a pandemic storm, as well as watch the old-fashioned spring thunder type dinging up the apple tree below this bedroom window. I cannot tell what is real anymore. One example being that through the rain, I think I see the first hint of pink that will become flowers in the apple tree, like the color before a color, the promise of a color. But it's also possible I am imagining it. I cannot tell if I'm in love with Inish here in bed beside me, or if this blooming in my chest is imagined. I cannot tell if this sore throat is actual or imagined. But most importantly, I cannot gauge the basic intelligence of looking forward to the promise of pink flowers, which will lead to bees, which will lead to apples, which will lead to a horse eating an apple come August, because I am still alive, and so is the horse, and so is the planet. Is that future-looking thing a good idea, or the most fuckery thinking you've ever heard of? No one knows any more about the progression of things. Aren't we all especially interested in the strange nature of time? The longest wild and magical march ever experienced by humans of planet Earth has just ended. The most graphed month has just ended. It's April and we're all wondering what's next, and so I turn and glance at Inish sleeping, and I hope she is not some figment. A cascade of red hair, and I'm not sure even where her face is and all that. My waterfall. I'm over the waterfall, I told her on the train to Prague after that first kiss. And when she asked me to explain, I just shrugged because I have been waiting for this all my life. It's too early to say the words, but those radio love songs make sense and my life is finally happening, which means I am infected with the other sort of virus, the good kind, and any sickness I feel is the pressurized, yearning, lusty sort, and maybe even wonder. I don't want to wake her with a lusty stare or a wonder-filled stare, so I grab my weed from the dresser. Joint or pipe or blunt, can't make up my mind, and meanwhile I go back to staring at the rain falling straight down on the beginning of spring. In the distance are the red stone foothills and the blue peaks beyond, and I forgot how much I love and missed Colorado. Somewhere up in those foothills, a bear is choosing now to come out of hibernation. She'll have a yearling, and they'll start with the aspen catkins and grasses, waking their stomachs up, stretching in the new sun. Closer in, there are the cows out in the pasture just calved, because calving season continues regardless of viruses. I haven't taken notice yet, having only been out back for the funeral, but I'm guessing there are surprised white faces huddled underneath mothers. Always they look like that, surprised to be on Earth at all, legs braced, eyes blinking. I think I might look like a baby calf, just born, looking around the new world, thinking, what the nonsense is this? What a new world indeed. It will never quite be the same. We all know this to be true right as we're going through it. No wonder we all look so surprised. It's a secret, all of it. Spring itself is a secret that's deciding whether or not to speak the truth of summer to come. The future is a secret, one that not even the universe knows the answer to. The virus sequencing is a secret waiting to be unraveled. And closer in, there are secrets there too. There are so many secrets in this house right now. Some of them don't matter much, at least not anymore, but there is at least one that matters very much. And I suppose today is the day that I will tell Jess, since she is, of course, the one that deserves to know. And I, of course, am the one that needs to be brave enough to get the words out. When we pulled up in an Uber last week at the old farmhouse for Rennie's funeral, which had been delayed for me to get across the planet and also revamped to include a small group standing 6 feet apart in the back pasture, where her ashes were put right next to Grandpa's decayed body, when we pulled up for that funeral, Inish and I both got out and waved to the nervous Uber driver, and we stood there right in the middle of the gravel and dirt lot surrounded by white farmhouse and barn and outbuildings and a huge gasp. Inish grabbed my hand hard in response to the collective stunned silence of Jess and Carolyn and Reuben, and she said, "Oh my God, you didn't tell anyone I was coming." I said, "Nope," and the silence went on for a few heartbeats. Then I said loudly, because we were all so far apart, That's Carolyn, who raised me when my mom died, and she's married to Dell, but he can't be here because of his cancer, which is when Carolyn said, yeah, and welcome, and who are you? Or some such thing. And I said, Reuben is the town veterinarian, and with that, well, that is Jess, my little sister, the one who knows me best, or at least the longest. And we all stood back, keeping a far distance, and we all stared at each other like newborn calves taking in the world. No one knew I had a girlfriend ever, me being always so awkward and covered with zits and smoking weed, always trying but not having success in the matter of romance. Already well into my 20s and still a virgin, as far as they knew, but here I was with a woman, and a beautiful one to boot, like a real grown beautiful woman, and one I'd bring to a funeral during a lockdown in a pandemic. Who would do such a thing to someone you just met few weeks previous? It was all insane. It's all insane. But here's the thing. I was with Inish in Prague when Carolyn called, in bed in a youth hostel, having just had sex and dozing off in a room we finally had to ourselves, when my cell phone went off 3 times, enough to expect emergency. There was Carolyn's voice telling me I needed to fly home. I said something to the effect that I'd heard the news, that I might wait out this virus business while in Europe. But she said no, I was coming home. Not only for the virus, but because Grandma Rennie had died. And yes, it was COVID that killed her, and she was one of the first deaths in Colorado, at least to Carolyn's knowledge. And also what I was hearing was no joke, and the airports were closing, and I needed to get the hell fuck home. I've never heard Carolyn cuss, and as I sat there absorbing that simple fact, plus the news, Inish roused herself and said, what is it, a funeral? Can I go? I don't want to go back to New York. I don't want to be without you. And with Carolyn talking in one ear and Inish in the other, my own mind was clicking with the realization that I was the only one left on the planet that knew the truth. Because Rennie had been the only person besides me that knew, and now she was dead. D-E-A-D, dead. Because my mind spells out things when I'm surprised. And Rennie was dead, and Rennie was the one who told me to ignore Ray's letters from prison. Burn them if need be. Burn them literally and in my mind, because nothing that killer said was worth a moment more of my life. But that she'd pay the property taxes on the land he left me because it would be stupid not to. Land was a treasure worth keeping. It was all too much, and I stood up and looked out the window of the hostel down at the cobblestone street, a pose exactly like I am now, with Inish on the bed to my side. Only then she was looking at me with those green eyes, and right then the inside of my chest felt like a waterfall, exactly like a waterfall. I was going over a waterfall, and I said, I'm over the waterfall now. And we started making travel arrangements, came here, stepped out of the Uber, surprised everyone with the existence of Inish, and then isolated ourselves for a week, which was fine because we were all so exhausted. All we wanted to do was sleep anyway. And we needed a week to disinfect things and do things like shut the door to Rennie's room and bathroom and put tape on the outside. Then we went to her funeral in a field, and now here we are in Rennie's old farmhouse, which is empty except for the 3 of us, me and Inish and Jess, living upstairs. And here I am looking out at an apple tree that is faintly fuzzed with pink and getting dinged up by a storm. This ranch is a good place to be in a pandemic in the external world sense, but I know for a fact that none of us are in a good internal place, not at all, and I feel an explosion coming. I can feel it as sure hell as I feel my sore throat, which has me worried too. The next days are going to be hard, and I'm going to stand here trying to brace for it. I do hope this Inish waterfall is real, because it sure seems like that might help. And the start of chapter 2, narrated by Jess. Stupid Billy, bringing a girl home during a pandemic and into a house where a virus has just chewed up a life. Every doorknob cleaned and the disgusting smell of disinfectant, but obviously there is still the feel of death around here. But whatever. His brotherliness has waned over the years, and now I have come to expect nothing. Stupid cramps stabbing up my insides, and I, for one, did not sign up for this shit. Stupid rain, stupid Rennie dying, stupid Reuben, stupid being young, stupid heartache. Stupid Godzilla virus rampaging Earth. And stupid stuff that goes along with the virus, stupid. The stupid news, stupid aggressive distractions, stupid president, stupid fact I can't keep my brain straight. Stupid me. Why exactly am I the only one that gets so monstered up by life? Why is no one else going around crunching clonazepam in their teeth or Xanax or whatever the dude at the grocery store happens to have in his front pocket? Why do they seem to be able to get air into their lungs? And also, I've been dealing with this no air in the lungs feeling since the day mom was killed for years now. And now this, a virus that does the same thing but worse. Is that like the universe kicking you while you're down, kicking you in the ribs when you can't already breathe? And also, does not the universe or God or anyone care that the no air in the lungs is the absolute worst sensation? So scary, so scary. And also, already it was climate change and school shootings and idiot economies and dumb politicians who can't get a single sentence out. And now this, the monsters never end. They only grow in monstrosity. And I'm just realizing that the rest of the world already knows that. But to me, it is news. I am just learning this basic fact that the world will monster you up. No one taught me this stuff, and I'm 20 years old and no less than a 2-year-old, and everyone else has it together. Carolyn, for example, how can she be so damn calm and resilient while Dell is dealing with chemo and her mother is dead? And that furthermore, we all end up dying. We know we will, and mortality salience is on our mind every dang day. Sure, she's sad, but why is she not all jittery like me? Carolyn's out in the barn now, and I can see her through the rain through the big barn door, and she's polishing the saddle on the saddle horse, and my guess is she's going stir crazy too. Just seeing her there makes me want to cry. I stand staring out the kitchen window until the rain lets up and the Clonsey kicks in and opens up my throat, and thank God for pharmaceuticals. I hate to say it, but it's true. And then I walk outside to join her, and oh, the smell, the earth green smell and the new grass smell and everything lit up by raindrops. Some meadowlark, bright yellow on the front, bursts out in song from a fence post, and yes, indeed, there's an unsure rainbow to the east, which I point out to Carolyn, who is now outside leading Whitman up to the hitching post. I stand 10 feet away from her as requested by her because of Dell and all, and it feels weird not to walk up and hug her, and this whole thing is stupid. But she looks calm, ungodzillaed, and that strikes me as a miracle, a gift that other people get to have. A mass of brown hair crammed into a ball cap and the build of someone who is sturdy and grounded, and she looks way younger than she is, although the gray has finally taken over near her temples. Or maybe it already had, but now there's no hairdressers open and it's had the chance to burst through too, just like that meadowlark song. She's stronger and bigger boned than my mother was or than I am, and she's always been stronger and sturdier on the inside too. Nice, she glances from the rainbow to me. How you kids holding up? And when I nod, she says, I think it's hard to be young right now. It's harder on you than us older ones. We're fine, I say. Billy has Inish, he's head over heels, and I don't know, you. She bites her lip, stares at me for a while. And Billy, you have Billy. Sure, Billy, and Reuben, he's a good friend. Sure, Reuben. She blinks at me and almost says something, but instead asks, this Inish, what do you think about her? And then I'm going to skip ahead a little bit as they discuss the stranger in town and a little bit more. Carolyn stares off toward the mountains. Hey, I know we all just lost Rennie and we're all grieving that. And here we are in this pandemic and we're all grieving that too. And on top of that, I know you got these other losses. I just hope you hang tight, Jess. Life gets bad and then it gets better. It just does. That's how it works. Gets bad, gets better, then the cycle repeats, and that's the whole of it. We're just in the bad part right now. We can only assume it will get better then. I smile up at her. Really, Carolyn, I'm all right. The great isolation will soon be over. Not that I have anywhere to go anyway, but still, it will be good to have things right again. I'm fine, I promise. Leave Whitman tied here and give Dell a hug for me. Tell him I think of him all the time. And I pat Whitman on the butt, urging him on. As I watch her ride off, moving from a walk to the trot that Whitman is hoping for, I put in another half a Clonsey in my teeth and crunch. The Godzillas have me monstered up good today, and when Billy's not busy, I'll ask him to buy me some weed because pot shops are open and considered essential businesses, and I've got a few months to go before I'm legal to buy. Or maybe I can try to get through this day without much else, although it seems to me that humans need something. touch or drugs or love, something beyond themselves. And I think that's what COVID is teaching me, that I'm going to need something new. In the meantime, maybe Billy and I could go for a walk or something, anything. Really and truly, fucking anything would be better than this monster right now. Getting out of this unget-outable body is the one thing Billy understands. Carolyn and Dell did right by us, and it makes me crazy to think of the cancer and the virus and losing them too. And Billy saying he has a sore throat and falling in love so hard. What if Inish is just lust, and I'm guessing he's lost his virginity to her, and I'm also guessing he can't think of anything but sex, and I don't blame him, but it seems dangerous. I gotta get out of this stupid head which can't let go but can't feel anything both at the same time. My insides are clawed up inside, worse than anyone knows, including me. Da-da! And then you got to read on. So I just want to say that good things happen. Well, bad adventures happen, but then some good things happen too.
Just like life. Oh, Laura, that was wonderful. I just, it's like, don't stop. I'm guessing everybody else is feeling the same way. Please keep going. Don't stop. Damn, Laura. I see. I completely agree. What really struck me, I want to ask you about, even, not knowing anything about the characters and kind of just coming at this with my head in the clouds a little, immediately knew I was hearing a young woman. I mean, just this instant, not just from details, but the way you captured her voice. Where did do you go back into your own life to grab just that angsty piece? How did you get her voice the way you did? That was amazing. It just struck me because it's so recent. I was like, it was like I was either talking to younger people or I was remembering my own, the monsters. I loved the Ungodzilla. I had
Godzilla
to Ungodzilla. Yeah, that was wonderful.
Yeah, Billy's 24 or so, and Jess is 20, and I'm shooting for that younger voice. I feel like I personally never grew up, so I have that voice still in me, maybe. But no, I also ran it by my kids who are 19 and 21 and asked them to read it, just to get some terminology right, or make sure I'm not using phrases that are too my era. But humans are humans, and we're all dealing with anxiety and stuff. I just knew that I was still interested in writing these characters in a coming of age story, a younger story. In part, maybe, well, I invented these kids way before I had kids, but I do have kids that are now this age, so that's helpful. They come over every day and make them lunch, and we talk. So it's probably that. But anyone who knows me believes that, or knows that I believe in voice heavy work. I love strong voices, and that's what I'm always shooting for, more than even plot sometimes, much to my detriment. But I'm trying to balance that.
It was just even the sense, even without worrying about, was this a Gen X 20-year-old or not, it just felt very, very true.
Thank you.
Amelia wrote, and I was thinking, kind of wondering the same thing. How do you feel about writing in this kind of context? She said, writing about this situation that we all don't know how it will yet resolve. I think this whole COVID world, that's a brave step to take. How was that for you, or how do you feel about all of that?
I know, I think it's usually important to ruminate on something and let it sit for a while, but something about the time was so immediate, and I thought it would be great to try to put to words the anxiety we were all feeling, especially in April and March. That was such a bizarre time, and I just tried to write. I just wanted to capture that moment, wow, in the moment. And I don't know, I don't know if that's a good idea or not, but I hope it is. That's kind of what I'm wedded to now. So it's become a COVID novel, and whatever happens is dependent. The plot depends on COVID. So I'm going to give it a try.
You're going to go, yeah. How else have you felt this time has impacted your writing? What other things have you observed?
Well, like many people, I felt extremely distracted. And, by the time you check the New York Times and all those graphs every day, I felt emotionally drained, like I have never been drained. And I think a lot of people felt that way. On the other hand, I think there's something about me that activates when I'm under duress or stress or grieving. And writing for me often comes out of pain. A lot of my writing has been somehow dealing with some kind of pain I have had. And so I write to understand the pain I'm going through. So it's no surprise to me now that I've written enough novels that I suddenly felt activated at the moment of despair, because that's how I roll, I guess. Yeah.
I think Kathy's asking something different. She said you started it last year. How did you adjust it to add COVID angle?
Well, I started writing this book a couple years ago and then came back to it a little bit last year, but I knew it was about Billy and Jess and after a funeral, and they need to finally get a secret out and deal with some shit so that they can really become true siblings. They were siblings as kids, but adult siblinghood is a very different deal, and you got to make it work. I think you got to make that transition. So I'd started that book and I had the outline, but I knew something was missing. And I couldn't quite figure out what the plot would be. And then COVID hit and I was like, that's it. They got to be brought together on the ranch because of COVID. And they're both, Jess is very Godzilla'd up. She suffers from anxiety, and Billy has anger issues. So put them together on a ranch and that makes the plot I need under duress. So
has your writing routine in general, have you adjusted your routine to because your days have changed, or have you found that you're still kind of following the same discipline you had before this all happened?
Yeah, I'm just a regular routine lover, I guess. I've always tried to. Life does not always help out with this, but I've always tried to get up and give the first 2 hours of my day to writing, say 7:30 to 9:30. And then I'm done, and then I move on to teaching and emailing and making a living or doing dishes or parenting or whatever. So that's my schedule, and that remained pretty consistent. What I had to do was quit reading the New York Times.
Yeah. Turn the news off.
As we all did at some point.
Yeah, that daily what's going on right this second thing. Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to give this a sec. Does anybody else have any questions? You've got lots of great. Take a minute, Laura, when you get a shot, and this will make it available to you too. You've got some beautiful comments. Okay. Somebody, no more CNN. I agree, Amelia. We'll give it just a sec. Again, this recording will be available. Can you talk about conclusions? It's a good question. Did you have the ending in mind when you started?
I never do, and I wish I did sometimes. We were just talking about this in class today, but I've never mapped out things well. I just put characters in trouble and watch them suffer until they work it out. However, I knew I was heading towards, Jess is going to head towards some healing. She needs to learn to live with anxiety in a healthier way than she is. And Beth and Billy, I won't tell you what happens with his love story, but he's growing up rapidly. So I knew vaguely where it was going, which was a happier place for both of them. But other than that, no, the ending is always a surprise to me too. I'm just listening to him. I always say writing is an act of listening. I'm just listening to Billy and his problems. I'm like, geez, you poor kid. And poor Jess, I just want to go give her a hug, but they tell me what they got to tell me.
Ashley asked, are you planning to focus more on the months of quarantine, or do you plan on continuing throughout the pandemic and having the characters go through as we are currently?
The novel lasts for exactly 1 week. And then, so the novel itself just takes place over 1 week in March, the first week of April. Okay. So that's the scope of the novel. Will I keep writing about the pandemic and isolation, what happened since? I hope so in some way. I haven't thought about future yet. Yeah. I'm still recovering.
Yeah. Is there anything you want to say about your year-long cohort and anything you'd like for people to know about who haven't gone through that experience?
Well, they are all here and they'll be reading on Friday. I really hope you can join. But all I do want to say is I think it's for anyone working on a book-length project, something like this is an invaluable investment. It comes at a cost, I know. I mean, there's a financial cost, but the community that came and the fact that everyone was able to really push forward in a dedicated manner because you're dedicated and committed to it, and you've got your peers waiting for your work and that sort of thing, I think people are really pleased with their work. And I think it's a really wonderful idea if you don't need an MFA, for example, but you do need a year of committed community. So I'm just going to give a shout out to the whole idea in general and hope that people for whom it will serve will sign up in the future.
Great. Do you have time for one more question?
Sure.
Kyle wanted to know how challenging it is to switch between first person perspectives so often. And do you prefer writing in that style over a third person narrative? And if so, why?
Yeah, that's a good craft question. I love close third and first, and the line between them is so thin. But first person, to me, you're most in their head, and that limits you to see only and feel only what they're seeing and feeling. But in that way, I can get to an interiority. And if you read my books, you will know I'm most interested in human psychology and emotional depth. I'm not that interested in long plot arcs that move through time and space. I'm interested in going deep down into one individual and see what makes them tick and what they're afraid of. And so first person or close third are when I'm always going, I've written a couple more omniscient or second person. I wrote one second person thing, but I think just by the nature of who I am and what I care to explore, a first or close third is going to be where it's at for me.
Great. Well, thank you, everybody. And thank you, Laura, especially. Thank you for teasing us with that. I think you've got a bunch of people that are itching to see what happens next. So
thank you.
I'm so grateful. And with that, we just wrapped up day 3, if you can believe that. So we will be back tomorrow with yet more craft talks and more readings and all sorts of things. Again, this reading will be made available as soon as my internet speed lets it There we go. Apparently it's dinner time. This will be made available later on tonight, and feel free. Again, this one will be public, so please share it with anybody you think would appreciate it. And I'm gonna go kill me a couple of dogs. So you guys,
give them a hug.
All right. Well, we'll talk to you later.
Buenas noches, todos.
All right. Bye-bye.